Hey guys. um I wanted to talk to you guys about something that actually happened to me on Friday. And then we'll also read more of Delcora Quest, but Delacora Quest, but I wanted to talk about something important, but for on Friday when I was at Listen Up, when I was at my music program, my so it was awesome because Liam. So I was with Liam on Friday, and it was me, my friend Ellen, and our friend Connor. That I go to program with, and I so we obviously are rehearsing for our Pride Festival show. I don't know if we'll be doing much rehearsal this Friday coming up. Um cuz the thing is, like, rehearsal, typically you want everybody in the band. I mean, it's a requirement. Everybody, you can start mapping things out, but when it comes to actually rehearsing, it's hard. I mean, you can't do it unless everybody is there. Even though there's some people that can actually do it. Like for me, for how long I've played drums and like have been in the, really have been a musician, even if I was out for 2 Wednesdays and I wasn't there, I still would be able to catch on pretty quick of what is going on. Which it takes a lot of people, depending on, it takes people's skill to do that, to walk in if they've missed a day or they've missed 2 weeks of school or program, to fully catch what they're missing or what they had missed out on. Teachers will give you shit about it. They'll be like, well, you missed this important lesson, and you can't really argue with them to the extent where you just have to, like, do what you missed, really. But what is very important for many of you out there who would like to know, like, um but really what had happened Friday was something remarkably, it was really a special day for me, and for other people. But I was so the focus of being in the studio Friday afternoon was for me to play a drums to one of my cryptid songs on my album. And it was a song that I had started previously called Dogs of War. Um which is a song that is about, so actually it's centered around, as I said, how people come back from war and society forgets about what they do, or forgets that they served, meaning that people that aren't deployed struggle of really having these people come back to society, whether you're from that general area. They they want change, but like that's the thing, they want constant change. So it's like people often misunderstand when somebody is coming back home to their family. It sucks when it feels like sometimes it brushes off people's shoulders to not feel as recognized or as important. I mean, it is important to feel important, but it's never okay to not acknowledge that, hey, welcome home or welcome back, you know. It's never okay not to acknowledge that kind of behavior of somebody constantly wanting change, but yet somebody in your family, husband, wife, is coming home from being deployed, coming home to their families, and society just wanting desperate changes made. Changes that, but Dogs of War talks about the wishing of changing, and the creativity that builds up to changing, to actually acting on it instead of thinking about it. Because I feel like misunderstood can be something that can be ignored, but it also can be something like the definition of misunderstanding, like many, like somebody not knowing how to react, to somebody, somebody not always knowing someone of what they're going through or what somebody is dealing with. People aren't going to know unless you tell them, and you tell them the truth. But Dogs of War is a song I stopped for a while, but I drummed on this song on Friday because I actually want it to be the ending song on my album for many reasons. One reason being that the Dogs of War who were deployed, you know, are, I feel like, it's very important to me that feeling misunderstood, feeling like an outsider, especially since, I mean, before you were deployed, you were from America, but you were deployed somewhere else far away, and you're returning home to a lot of changes that have been made. Um, Changes that have been made since you left through society and through the nation. People want change, and a lot of lyrics, like, what is it? I will say that there's a song that Nickelback has called Edge of a Revolution. Same shit, different day. That's the thing. I can't keep that if I can't get paid. Um, But again, that I feel like that song is a direct message to those who were in a war. Society pushes them over the edge, meaning that they can't keep something in their life without having to pay somebody else, which is not what America is really about. Anybody who comes home from anywhere should should be able, those who didn't serve the country or didn't travel should always honor those who come home, even if you're on vacation. But for me, Edge of a Revolution it's one of the songs that stands out as far as a hard rock song from a band that I enjoy listening to. Edge of a Revolution, I feel like, really highlights that. And I hate to compare Nickelback with Huey Lewis and the News. Huey Lewis and the News, they had a song called Walking on the Thin Line, but that song generally focused on the Vietnam War. So Edge of a Revolution is kind of covering more of the element of war, or not even more of the element, but it's referring to a revolution, meaning that revolution, meaning war, coming back from the war. What is the aftermath? Coming home. What is the aftermath after returning? Being put towards the edge, being pushed towards the edge. You can't, I guess, you can't always be with society if you're not getting out of, if you, because, again, that's all, if you can't keep something, what is it? If you can't keep something, that's the thing is, that's the thing is, if you can't keep a job, you can't get paid. So it's kind of a similar metaphor. Um, but again, if you can't keep something and you're dealing with the same shit every day, because if it keeps happening, if something keeps happening, whether you have a job, same shit, different day, punch in, punch out. Honestly, working for the CIA or working for society is tough business. I personally wouldn't do it myself. Um, but one of the two songs that really, for me, one more of being a headbanger and the other one being about a certain revolution, which was a specific war, the Vietnam War. And the way they broke down walking on a thin line was awesome. Because you can, for me, when I listen to that song, I can feel it. I can feel coming home from a war, being labeled as a freak, soldiers getting labeled as freaks. Um, but what is it? Being on the streets of the city, which is like, that song Broken Down is just it's it's an anthem of it's an anthem of being labeled and being considered many things to people. When you go to a different country, people are going that live in that country are not going to call you what they know you are, what you they know you truly are. Unfortunately, wars have more of a darker twist to that. The Vietnam War specific, I mean, many wars do, but the Vietnam War was definitely one of them that labeled people who were outsiders as freaks. But I really like Huey Lewis in the News because their lyrics with that one song just blows me away of what the harsh reality of war, the income and the outcome that it produces. I often am very oblivious to the fact when somebody who hasn't served asks somebody who has, "How did you survive?" or "How can you survive?" Honestly, I consider that one of the most inappropriate states of question because, that's the thing is if you state that to somebody who's served, they are going to blow up. Or they might have a negative reaction towards that. Because I feel like they would have a reaction that states, "Why would you ask me that?" Like why would you ask me, state to me that I'm still alive? And I feel like a follow up question would be asked, stating that how come you didn't serve the country, or how could you say that to somebody who served? Because those are survivors. A lot of them are. But somebody who didn't wasn't deployed stating to a veteran how they can survive through the harshest winters, the harshest, times of their life, the most misunderstanding parts of their lives. Why is it that that we that those who aren't deployed often ask that? Do we do it to anger people who were deployed, who were veterans? Because we should be honoring them. We shouldn't be asking them questions or stating questions, you know, as how are you surviving, or because a true veteran would state to you, "How are you surviving if you weren't transferred to another country?" because the thing is, people who are deployed, if you think about it, it can be a come home and return, or it can be something completely different. But those who, I mean, nobody under, from at least on my standpoint, veterans should always be welcome with open arms. Um, but still, kind of going back to the music scene, since we're talking about people, that serve, and really how I think everybody, despite what you want to state or question somebody who is deployed, eventually people who are served are going to get sick of it. Of somebody asking, how can they survive? But that's the thing, is there's a lot of homeless people in the city of Portland, where the the location in Maine I attend my music program, and when I'm in downtown, I always attempt to thank anybody who is a veteran, to say thank you for your service and welcome home. And if I and that's the thing, some I feel like some of the lucky one, or really not lucky, but some of the people that actually are veterans, which I'm guessing is maybe over 50, are actually homeless, but yet they still carry that patriotic side of them with the war that they served. It could be a hat, but never never walk away from somebody who has an Air Force hat on. A as I said, it could be a Navy hat, it could be a military hat. They did more for those who didn't serve. They helped us, and they put themselves in harm's way for those who were either too young, but many of those who do not return, who are unfortunately killed on the front line. Even so dark, and I don't like bringing this up, but some who do die in war, it's very hard when society ignores that they died for their country, but they also died for the ones that they love. They died for their wives, their parents. But that's the downfall of how war is constructed, and it's one of the many, I would say, it's, but the thing is, my goal, hopefully, my next album, I feel like is going to, but I would like to do, my goal for next, I've got a really big plan. Since I'm working on my Cryptid album, I'm trying to get that squared away and completed. When I was drumming on my Dogs of War album, the recording was kept, but Liam had literally told me, because I didn't stop drumming, so he kept it going. Liam actually went in the closet, got an instrument cable, plugged the guitar into the amp, and we jammed for about 2 hours Friday afternoon. But little does Liam know, does any of the staff know, I had this fully planned out for a reason. I had it fully in my brain that Dogs of War was going to be a gateway to my next album, because I plan to have Dogs of War my last song on the album. Because going by the file, the folders, and you click on my Cryptid album, those songs aren't going to be they're not in the right order right now. But my approach to this album is going to be it's going to be called maneuvering maneuvering over maneuvering over misunderstanding over misunderstanding. But it's going to be more of a it's going the album is specifically going to be focused on time signatures, playing rhythm on the drums as you would a guitar. I have it all mapped out. I have the blueprints, and it's currently happening, but Liam unfortunately does not know that that jam session was not was not by accident, because it was not by accident. Because typically you would move on if something was an accident, or if you made a mistake, you move on. But almost a 2 hour jam. And this is not my brain just thinking about this. It's your actions that do the planning and that do the acting. And this may hopefully be a message towards those who know what America is and what does America symbolize. Well, America is the land of the free and the land of the brave. Unfortunately, it changed to where a lot of people disagree, and often I feel like society is on a lot of people's minds. But I think people often, will say they respect the society. You can respect the society, but what is America? It's the land of the free and land of the brave. It's land of the free, meaning that freedom is the answer, and we're so lucky to live in a country that that is celebrated with freedom, and that is celebrated with those who are brave. Land of the free, land of the free, home of the brave. That's right, home of the brave. And that's the thing. That's where the war. So those who come home, but again, I cannot. Actually, that could be my album title. Land land of the free, home of the brave. But a lot of people are focused on society. But society often forgets that those who are deployed, because home of the brave to me symbolizes those who are deployed to serve our country. Home of the brave. Nobody, I mean, I will say, when you don't, I mean, the thing is, somebody knows there's something in the air. We all have instinct and we all have senses. Taste, smell, hear. Those are all forms of how we can be either attracted or to eat something, but we all have behaviors, and we either like the hearing of that, the smell of it, the taste of something, the touch of something. We all have different things that use those words. but it's gotten extremely out of the element where now people consider it land of society. Well, nobody's going to view the United States of America that way. The land of society. Because when somebody refers to a society, society is what we live in. Society is not America. Society is a definition of of um of what is around us, having nothing to do with the United States of America but what we're surrounded by. What is the setting that we're currently living? What is the setting that is happening right now? What is unfolding right now? What are you leading somebody into, and what are you supporting them to get out of? How can you make yourself feel the freedom you desire? What is the freedom looking like for yourself? What is the freedom that you're looking to achieve for yourself? And not for other people, but what are ways you can get out of something that are non-lethal, that are not addicting, but actually they resemble you as a person and as somebody who lives in the US. But this is the land of the free and home of the brave. Sometimes people, I will say, I like jokes, but the thing is, people will state like something else. They'll be like, the United States of America is the home of the free, land of the brave, or land of the free, home of the brave, and cheeseburgers. But people often will add something else to that, which I think is very creative. So I think creativity plays a huge role, not in the society, but in the United States. The fact that a lot of people who are creative inhabit the US, I mean, it, and I'm not saying overseas, I mean, overseas we've got a lot of creative people too. Don't get me wrong, like the guy who created Pokemon, brilliant guy. He used his superpowers to create something that could have never been created. But it actually, like everybody, creativity starts from somewhere. It starts from something you could have done as a child, and you evolve that into something huge, making it something, a legacy to pass on to your kids, maybe, but also having it as a resort of putting things out there that people are like, this is awesome. This is whoever created this is awesome. But again, things like that happen through a foundation, and it's a lot of it is through enjoyment, art, um something, enjoying nature, things evolve, things have a metamorphosis to them. But it's extremely important because it's all a source of growth, of of being somebody, or being actual, and honoring and being grateful that humans are a source of light, or are a source of life, that were created by somebody up in the sky. But when somebody doesn't know that you are doing something, you're not doing it by accident, but you're doing it because you enjoy it, but you're doing it, what I mean, on purpose. Because Liam had no idea that, but my focus was to work on that song. But the fact what Liam didn't know is that Dogs of War was a song I started, but the aim is to have that as an ending song on the Cryptid album, but it leads immediately into the second. It's a monster drink, but it's bad apple. It tastes like okay. It tastes like apple cider. Well, they told me everybody put in the chat. Is it in the hole? Yes or no? Put in the comments. Yes. um, but that's one of the main important things is recognizing on what you're doing, and going through what you're doing, but having a change, whether somebody caught it or not. They're gonna, that's the thing, is they're gonna follow it. and working with Liam for a long time, Liam is definitely somebody who catches things quick. They call it being sharp with precision, which Liam and I have that pretty packed down at this point. But I also wanted to come on here and also talk about. I thought I would do another thing. Is that I wanted to talk about my top 10 favorite guitar players. Now, I consider myself my favorite guitar. I'm really good at guitar, but like again, those that state, why don't you give yourself enough credit for what you do musically? I do. I definitely do. But I also have a big heart where I also want to be kind to other people, be considerate. But I will say I definitely am a great guitar player. But I thought I would kind of switch it up a little bit. Um, because many of you know the kind of music that I'm in, but you'll never know. Actually, really, you're not gonna really fully know my favorite guitar player of all time. But I'm gonna state, other than myself, he is someone who does not get enough recognition that I feel like should be on top of the chart by a long run. I would say this man, I feel like, is a ghost, meaning that, he performs when he's asked to perform, and he performs when he chooses to. Because when somebody is telling you or forcing you to perform something, you can either say yes or no. It's not illegal and it's not against any policy. But number 10 is going to be the lowest. Number 1 is going to be the all-time best guitarist in my book, which I know a lot of you may not even be ready for. Who I'm going to I think probably a lot of you aren't even going to get. I mean, you can guess, you can give it your best shot, but you're not you're not going to get my number 1. But I'm already going to state that if any of you guys say Brad Paisley as my first favorite, you're all wrong. The good news is Brad is not even lower on my list for guitar players. But my number 10 is because for me this was a very this was number 10 was not at all hard a decision to make, but when I think of people who are musicians, I think of their ability and their skill set to play, but I also think about their attitude through production as well, through the process of creating music. But number 10 on my list is Eddie Van Halen. And I know people are going to say, why do you not like Eddie Van Halen? Now, this is not a list, and I'm going to be clear, this is not a list about who I don't like. This is a list of and how I categorize this list and pretty much have it kind of like a pain index from Sting of the Wild. This is an index of somebody's skill in music, but somebody's persona through being a musician, a professional musician. But Eddie Van Halen is number 10 on my list. So we're going to talk about the good about Eddie Van Halen. One of the best guitar players of all time. That is definitely accurate. At least to a lot of people it is. He's collaborated with many artists. I mean, the solo for Beat It by Michael Jackson was one of the best signature solos he's ever done. Um, I will say my favorite Van Halen song. Many people don't know about this about me. I do like Van Halen, but I don't listen to a lot of Van Halen. But one of my favorite songs is Dream. And of course, I love Sammy Hagar. But Dream, as far as old Van Halen goes, Dreams is the only song I will listen to. But Eddie Van Halen, I will say his skill was great. The two tapping technique he had made is a really helpful technique for guitar players back then and the current. That it is a technique that is often used pretty much every a lot of people who are inspired by this band and other bands use this technique. Um, but Eddie Van Halen, as in his persona goes, um, to be very fair with the approach, or really, as I said, it has nothing to do with his solo and Beat It, but the fact what he said about Michael Jackson was nice. It was thoughtful, and it was out of respect. It was out of being considerate, of what he said about Michael Jackson, that Michael Jackson was a legend.
Hey, Tom.
Yep.
These are from here, Ashley.
What are they?
I like it. I'm not eating it, so.
Is there raisins in there?
No.
Yeah.
White and chocolate.
Okay, cool.
Don't let him find it. Am I right? Yeah. All right. I'm going to take my medicine. Oh, shit. No, I just gave you that.
You're not getting... Dude, you can't have chocolate. But Eddie Van Halen is definitely one of the guitar players. I think he's very skilled. His guitar playing definitely packs a major impact on those who start guitar, which is understandable, and it's cool, it's awesome. But the way that he didn't really specify why him and Michael Jackson weren't ever friends, because I know Michael had called him and, thanked him for doing the solo. But again, I feel like the before approach, when Michael Jackson's producer called Van Halen or Eddie, because he's also worked with Eddie as well. Eddie had treated him very poorly over the phone, stating, that this was a prank call, and that he stated to Michael Jackson's manager to never call again. And unfortunately, and I have to get my facts correctly here too, is that when you're in a band, you always have to compromise and you always have to be polite and nice, even if you don't like when somebody speaks to you, but you don't always want to assume that somebody is prank calling you. Because this was not a prank. This was a collaboration he did with the Pop King himself. It wasn't a turn down, but Eddie took it as a prank call. And I'm not stating at all that this man is not good at what he does. He is great at what he does. And every guitar player you hear has their own sound. Different guitars, again, are like different tools used on a car. Certain tools are used for different things to work on a car. Same thing with guitars. But actually, during the solo of Beat It, one of the monitors Eddie was using caught on fire, but he kept playing. I personally think about it as, if there's a monitor that's catching on fire, think of it as a broken string on your guitar. Obviously, the on fire monitor needs to be put out because it's on fire, but Eddie as I said, finish that solo while it was on fire. Um, but I often think of Eddie as somebody who survived an eruption by a volcano by standing near where the lava pours out. When it comes to his guitar playing. But yeah, Eddie Van Halen is at number 10 on my list. Number 9. So number 9 again. Um Dude, you don't get a cookie. You don't get those kind of cookies. Sorry, pal. You go get one from Mimi. Go get Mimi. Go get Mima. Have her get you one of your own. Go tell her. I can't tell her. Go tell Mimi you want a cookie. She'll get you something. I'll show you. Come on. All right. So, number 9 on my list. And just so you guys know, I didn't write this down. It's actually built in my head, but our next guitar player is Nuno Betancourt. He is the guitarist for the band Extreme. But he is a Portuguese American guitarist. And Extreme is actually a band out of Boston. Now, I really like the song More Than Words. That is a classic from the band. Um, but I will say Nuno's guitar playing is very. I will say this man is a road runner when it comes to playing guitar. He's fast, and just like many of those inspired drummers out there that 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 often are categorized as being precise with their drumming, Nuno Bettencourt, I will say, is precise as far as playing guitar. Because that's the thing is there was a video on YouTube, but it was these famous guitar players playing the Game of Thrones theme song at Guitar Center. But you had guitarists, so Newton Bettencourt was one of them, Ian Scott, or Scott Ian from Anthrax, Brad Paisley, Tom Morello from Audioslave and Rage Against the Machine, and the producer for Game of Thrones was also in on it, but they all were playing electric guitar. All of them had their each solo except for Scott Ian. But other than him, everybody had their own solo part. Um, but again, it was a great video, and it's one of my favorite videos that I'll go back to because the lineup is very unique and it's interesting. You've got somebody with speed, you've got somebody that flows with the soloing, and somebody who creates soloing by using abnormally weird sounds to make his soloing really stand out. But again, Nuno Bettencourt is best known as far as my opinion on him is that I don't listen to the band much, but I've heard him play, and precision and speed come to mind. But that's that's what I have to say. I don't know a lot about Persona with the band musically, but I know I've watched his guitar playing. He's played with Sammy Hagar. He had an episode with Sammy Hagar where, but Nuno is a speed. I would say he's kind of like the Flash or Johnny Quick when it comes to playing guitar. Number 8 is Um, Actually, number 8 is definitely guitar player. Hey, buddy. What? I thought you got something from Mimi. All right, so number 8 is what? I thought you went out and pooped. Did you? So my number 8 pick is James Burton. Now, those of you that know James Burton, he was the guitar player for Elvis Presley. He was one of them. Um, but he's the guitar player that gave Elvis really the guitar for his country and rock style drive. Um, but James Burton is by far one of my. I honestly, the guy is just, he's incredibly. His guitar playing is if you were to shoot a revolver at a target, but it was set to automatic, like pop, pop, pop. But it was, I mean, that's the thing is, this man was a rapid fire picking guitar player. Which honestly, I feel like he did a lot of finger picking too. Um, but one of the best songs you can actually see James Burton really go to town on, what I'm referring to, is the song Hound Dog, when he has that really awesome solo. But he does like this really unique, it's a bend, but it's like wow, wow, wow. But it's something like you would hear in blues. Um, I'll kind of play you guys what I'm talking about, but it's something ever since I listened to Hound Dog, I try to mimic and copy that distinctive rapid fire down, like just. And the thing is, he's doing either a bend or he's pulling off of, but he's making it like incredibly on it. For me, I can't. I mean, like for me, it's very, very it's often just unbelievable how Elvis had, because the thing is he didn't just have James Burton as his guitar player. He also, for more of his like, so Elvis also played guitar, so we can't all forget that. But again, you know, when you think of James Burton, you think of, but he was also the band leader for Elvis from 1969 until Elvis's death in 1977. But he used a Telecaster. So Scotty Moore was the 1950s rock and roll pioneer. So actually, it could have been Scotty Moore that did Hound Dog, not. Yeah, I might. Let's look up who did Hound Dog. That'd be guitar player for Elvis Presley. Hound Dog, because that really awesome solo. So what? Okay, so yeah, it was not. It was Scotty Moore who did the solo for Hound Dog. So he's the guitarist before James came in. Um, so actually, I was wrong, but I would say Scotty Moore is definitely number 8. Although I have heard James play, and he's also really good. But Scotty Moore played on the, because James was more of the live on tour guitar player for Elvis. Scotty Moore, it sounds like, was the guitar player for Elvis's Sun Studio years and early RCA hits. But his exact tone. But for a step-by-step guitar breaking down how to replicate Scotty Moore's exact tone and technique for Hound Dog. But there's that solo. Hang on. But Scotty Moore was the guy I was thinking of, not James, to correct everybody there on here. Um, but Scotty Moore is. But he served as Elvis's lead guitarist and okay.
You found that one. There's somebody. Uh-huh.
But as I said, Scotty Moore takes the crown for number 8. Number 7 So number 7 is going to be a shocker to pretty much a lot of people. Um, but we're gonna go back to a band that broke up last year. Actually, I got to see them on their last tour, because they came to the Portland area. But my buddy Andrew and I got to see them. But we've got Tom Thacker, and he's also known by his stage name Brown Tom. But he's the lead guitarist and lead. Wait, hang on. Music groups. So, Tom Thacker was in a band called Gob since 1993, all the way until 2009. Actually, no, joined Sum 41 in 2009, but um, Tom Thacker, I feel like, is a, as I said, he's a great guitar player, but honestly, if I'm gonna stick to the roots of Sum 41, because him and Frank Zumo, the new drummer they had after Steve left, I feel like really changed not so much the band, but Frank's a great drummer. I will say, for a lot of ways. And he's in that what is that band? But anyways, we're not talking about, that's another video I'll do about drummers, but Tom Thacker had a, not, for me, he had definitely a lead going with certain of the, with the music, but Dave had the edge. And that's what everybody that knows Dave would say, is that Dave punctured and had an edge to his guitar playing. Tom also is a well driven guitar player through his leads, but also through the thickness of what he brought to the band. I feel like he brought a lot of similar tone and influences by the Rolling Stones into the band. Um, but for come on, Thor. Thor, we get a cookie. Thor, Thor, hey, let's go, buddy. Come on. No, out of the trash. Come on, buddy. Come on, come on. Yo, your boy. Come on. Do you wanna go with Mimi? Go with Mimi. Go with Mimi. I know you want me to. I know you want that. That'll be cute. That'll be cute. Okay. Good boy. You can come in here. I'll leave the door cracked, okay? But Tom and Dave, I feel like they share that they almost, I call it like dual swapping, where like Dave will play rhythm, Tom will play lead, or Dave will play lead, Tom does rhythm. But again, when you have two guitar players, they often swap and can do more than just a lead or rhythms, or as I said, riffs being important in the band as much as leads and rhythm go. Hey, come on, bud. Pups. Pups. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Mm-hmm. It's me. Yeah, no, twat. No, twat. No, thank you. No, thank you. But yeah. Um, Dave and Tom, I would say, are they're a very they're they have a system of swapping and really determining what the song is. But I know Tom is also, honest, quite frankly, I think he would also really puncture, maybe even to like fill in for AC/DC. um I don't know, he's got that playing like under his belt, and it's very AC/DC and Keith Richards related, because I'm getting a taste of both of those bands, and that's what forms Tom's iconic sound. And that brings me to the number 6 spot, since we did just talk about him, but that's Dave Backish. I think that's how you pronounce his last name, but the other guitar player for Sum 41, the OG guitar player, as I would call him, from the very beginning. Now, Dave is a guitar player of of the land of edge and precision. Dave is often somebody, and I use this similar quote that he used in one of his interviews, is that if you have a shitty amp, right? It's not a Marshall, it's not a Fender, it's a cheap amp. And you're complaining that you can't play anything. Well, it's not the amp that is causing you that. What people very little know, that you know why you don't feel like you sound in tune, is because maybe you didn't tune your guitar. Because I mean, that's the thing, is when you have a good ear in music, I have to always check to make sure I tune my guitars, and that, because if you don't, then the thing is, the guitar won't be in tune, and yes, people will respond to, why does it sound like shit. But honestly, I really feel like Dave as well has edge, but he also has the edge that many rock stars lack of. If lacks a bad, I mean, a good word to state it the way I'm stating it, maybe he has a different drive and a different edge with his guitar playing as compared to other well-known guitar players. And following that up, Dave is just, I feel like his in band persona, besides his skill of playing guitar, is Dave's a sweet guy and he's very considerate. And I really think this man goes out of his way for not just his family, but also his bandmates and crew. Especially when Derek was experiencing the, what did he have? Asthma, but unfortunately had to cancel a couple tours due to his health. I even saw a picture of him and Dave. I don't know if this was. I mean, they look. I mean, Dave, I feel like as a person would go out for somebody who had health conditions that are unable to perform. But number 6 on my list is Dave from Sum 41. But we're reaching number 5. And actually, number 5 is, I have to really think about this, but if I'm gonna fit, I can't choose just one of these guitar players because they were all in the same band and they switched off many times. So technically, they weren't all just guitar players. But other than Ringo Starr, since he was the drummer for this band, I'm going to go with George Harrison, John Lennon, and Paul McCartney, all three from the Beatles, as my fifth spot. For many reasons of yes, John Lennon would sometimes not be comfortable doing the heavy lifting on certain songs he's written for the band, and having other band members sing it and perform it live. Still, what makes a songwriter makes a songwriter. It's the same thing if I were to write lyrics and I was like, this is kind of a bit too personal. I would still put the music to it. But again, that's where you have to ask the bandmates you're currently in a band with, I wrote the lyrics to this. Would you be able... Well, actually, I'm giving you the really special opportunity and permission to perform this song, which all three of them, including Ring, I will say many of the songs John Lennon wrote about his two sons, and there's two that come to mind. One of them he actually was not comfortable singing live and had Ringo sing it, but Ringo did an amazing job performing this song. And the song it's one of my favorite songs too. Once I heard this song, I actually cried listening to this. Out of just how beautiful and how the melody kind of like captured my emotions in this. The Beatles. Thor, get out of there. Hey. Come on. I know, you want to be with Daddy. I know you want to be with Danos. You want to be with Daddy. So, yeah. Okay, so it was actually not the song I was thinking. No. No. You are my beautiful boy, Thor, but still. Hey, stop getting into mischief. You like fish. Sorry, I'm talking to my beautiful boy, but in this case, my misbehaving, attention-seeking boy. But the song that John Lennon wrote but refused to sing the lead vocals on was the Beatles' track Good Night. So it was actually a lullaby that he wrote for his young son Julian. But it says here that felt that its openly sweet and sentimental nature would damage his hard rocker public image. Because of this, he handed the lead vocal duties over to Ringo. But again, with a song that carries But a good example of that is when somebody hands you the microphone and they don't ask you to, or offer, do you want to sing this or not? And somebody just hands you the microphone. It's like, it's very, your response is very, it kind of like stops. But I tend to not let it affect myself, because if you're getting like, if you're feeling uncomfortable and you have a microphone that somebody passes to you, it's for me, it's fear is a gift scenario. You're feeling uncomfortable because, but you start to figure it out. You're like, I could still have help with this. I could still sing the lead, but every song doesn't just have a lead. It's got a chorus, it's got a verse, it's got multiple verses. It's, some songs have outros, intros, but you may not be the only one singing either. And this song is actually a cover we're doing at the Pride Festival, and it's Everybody Dance Now. And I mainly specifically wanted to sing the few, because we're doing this as a fusion song. This one, or Everyone Dance Now, crossing into Eye of the Tiger, which Eye of the Tiger is a song I have a lot of background with, other than Everybody Dance Now. But you're not always going to perform a song that you're comfortable doing. And that could be hard advice for a lot of people, but I feel like it's good to take to heart too, because it's also strength. If it's a song that you feel uncomfortable singing, you may not be the only one that will be singing the lead. It's the same thing if you don't want your dog to eat a whole pound of bacon or a whole hot dog, you cut it up into pieces. But I think kind of a similar thing, John Lennon felt, that this song, he kind of like was like, yeah, I wrote this song, but I'm just, since it was a lullaby to his son, Ringo, and from the performance Ringo did of this song really is powerful. And I did watch that performance too, and it was very interesting. And he, honestly, that song was, I think that's probably one of the best performances I've seen, as far, but I hate to state this, but a lot of people state that the Beatles are old timer rock and roll. If you were to say that to an elderly person, that it was old old folk rock and roll, it is. But define old folks. It's music and a movement they grew up with. Just like how some people in the 2000s grew up with, Gen X, Generation X music. Same thing with the Beatles. But as number 5, Paul McCartney, John Lennon, and George Harrison are all on number 5. Number 4. Now, number 4 is a bit of an interesting um, decision. Um, okay, so number 4 goes to goes to the lead guitar player for Five Finger Death Punch. Um, but it's none other than the man himself, Jason Hook. Jason, I don't have anything negative to say about Jason. Um, but Jason is number 4, and he's 4 for many reasons. Um, Jason, so Five Finger Death Punch released their album. Wait, is it Way of the Fists? Um, nope, it was War is the Answer. But this is the album that Walk Away was on back in 2009. But Jason and Zoltan do this really awesome call and response guitar. So instead of vocals call and responding, it's guitars doing it. And to see this or to hear this through a song is a lot of what captures what doesn't just happen through a microphone, but really what can happen through two instruments. Especially a significant combination of Zoltan's rhythm and his drive, and really the fact that this guy is from Germany, but also was, when he lived in New York, was very influenced with pop music. But Zoltan having the drive and having the rhythmic melody drive with his guitar playing, where Jason is just a beast. Somebody who unleashes his monstrosity. His guitar playing is like a snow leopard dashing out of a cave to pounce on a mountain goat. But whenever I think of a really awesome call and response, there's no question in rock and roll. Walk Away is one of the best songs for that. And it also is a really good reality check for a lot of people. This song, I feel like, wakes the brain, wakes the mind up from being in a tough situation at the wrong time, or if being in a situation you find uncomfortable, the best resort to get out of something is to walk away. Something that's hard, something that's an addiction, people find it harder to walk away from something. To walk away, I mean, they carry addiction and obviously refuse to not get sober, because that's one of the many things the front man of this band did. Was he thought, many things, that he wasn't going to live up to his expectations, but it was his band that didn't give up on him. Anybody can beat addiction. Anybody can beat feeling hopeless. Anyone can beat any emotions, any habits you have put yourself in, you can walk away from. And I know this from experience, and I know it from living with individuals that still haven't done it. But Jason is many of those guys that have inspired me. Once you call for something, you may get a response, or you may not. You might get a response that you don't like. You can walk away from, really, that message in his guitar playing indicates that walking away from anything that you choose to walk away from could have an influence on you, or it could have influence on somebody that impacted you. Whether or not you're willing to wake up and say, oh, and be honest with yourself and that person. Walking away doesn't always solve. It's a big thing if you don't feel any validation towards what you do as a person, what you put in your body, your health. It all goes away, or how you treat somebody, it goes away when you know you can turn around and make it right. But many people fail to do that and they walk away. But walking away is not just a bad thing. Walking away can be a good thing for doing something for way too long. And you're just finally realizing what you're doing. Jason is a great guitar player, and I feel like he doesn't get enough recognition from. I think he actually gets recognition, but just not enough, as we would say, as far as, like Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix is always brought up because he was a great guitar player. I don't doubt that he wasn't, I should say. I don't doubt at all that he was not a good guitar player, but someone like Jason Hook, who has music that is a call and response and a direct message to those who need to step away from something that can be too challenging, carries weight. Um, but my third favorite guitar player is the current guitar player for Five Finger Death Punch, and that is none other than Andy James. Andy is I mean Andy didn't start out right. I mean, I don't know much about Andy. He seems like a down to earth guy with a quiet persona, and I admire guitar players that are quiet but don't always get in a band right away. Cuz that's the thing is when people often find guitar or band members, they go through ads, they go through magazines, websites, as they did to recruit Jason. Um, but Andy stuck with an inspiration for a while because Andy was an underground guitar player, meaning that I definitely did not. But the way they actually found Andy and it didn't happen through a website. It happened through Andy's video, like I do on YouTube. He would record himself playing guitar and the music he created. But I will say, Andy's impact on me as being a guitar player is you don't always have to play backing tracks. You can create music of your own. I use a website called Band Labs, but it's not. I mean, it's similar to a lot of the music creating apps out there now. Um, but again, you know, backing tracks are just really testing your skills where really the test comes in creating your own. You're not going by a backing track, but you're going through what you create. And Andy really sculpted that as being an inspiration for me playing guitar. But categorizing Andy as a guitar player that expresses survival and instinct when music needs to be created and how accurate you have to be. Andy's a veteran. I would say, I hope nobody considers him misunderstood, but he's already deployed in the music industry, and I'm hoping he stays, but also gets to come home. But and Andy also has his own private lessons on YouTube. I think it's called Lick Library, but he runs, by licks and things you can do that will enhance your guitar playing. You can play any kind of scale. Um any kind of scale on the guitar. I mean, and that's something I really gravitate towards Andy is you're playing the chord, but you can play that chord really on any fret as long as there's no wrong way to play guitar. There are ways how you treat a guitar, but they're from playing and learning how to play. But Andy's one of those guitar players that, I mean, the fact that he played this old Guitar Hero ballad and just hearing him play it, I mean, I listen to this every day, and how Andy just has that cut through his guitar, that cutting melody. Andy's definitely he has a song called, I think it's called Glitch Ghost. Um but I will say another big song Andy, and it was a cover he did, but it was Stay by the Shakespeare Sister, and they are a band from London, I think. But Andy covered that song, and he didn't use a pick, but he actually played the whole song finger picking. But Andy is number 3 on my list. He's just a genuine skilled guitar player, and he's in the top 3 for many reasons. And he's in as far as his playing and his inspiration in my life has evolved. My second favorite guitar player is somebody I actually did see perform in Guilford this past, or last year. No, was it last year? Anyways, I saw Brad Paisley. Um, yeah, it was last year. But I saw Brad Paisley with my significant other. My mom went, and her mom came as well. We met him there in Guilford, New Hampshire. But seeing Brad play, and this was actually my first real country concert. Um, Brad didn't just influence me that day, but the man serves purpose, and he serves that when you want to play a show, you don't need all that amplified equipment to do it. It's the drive, it's those who salute you if you break the law, and, having a dry sense of humor when it comes to teasing your band. But also knowing that Brad doesn't just provide country enthusiasts over his music, but how he impacts the globe, the United States, providing those who do not have food with food, between him and his wife Kimberly, I feel like they've changed the way of how people are suffering with hunger. And Brad being the only country artist that I feel like just has heart and skill playing the electric guitar, but he punctures it incredibly. Like, if you were to draw a canvas of what a slide would look like on a guitar, you wouldn't have to draw that canvas. Just listen to this guy play, and he'll bring you and paint you on that canvas. But Brad Paisley is a great guitar player, and he's one of my favorite guitar players. I When anybody asks me who is your country influence, and people often want to guess that. Those who've never asked me that question wouldn't know the answer because I haven't told them. But those who know me well, that know or probably never knew that country music was not always brought to my attention. This man played, and I heard his playing a lot when he did, along with Nuno Betancourt and Tom Morello, when he was invited to participate in the Game of Thrones theme song at Guitar Center. Because that's right, Brad, I think, was the one of, yeah, he was. So right, he had the solo after Nuno Betancourt had his. So Brad was, and you could see Brad went straight into it, and like, because the thing is, his soloing is if you were to read, like, what is it, like, your a heart monitor, right? It's it's not so it's going up and down like that, but it just, for me, it's more of like an arrow, and you're not even guiding the arrow into the red circle, where you're gonna get. Basically, when you shoot a bow and arrow, you do archery, you're aiming for the red target in the middle. brad Brad's always aiming for the middle. It's the same thing. You pick up a bow and arrow, you know how to use it, shoot, make sure you know what you're shooting at, your accuracy, and you're gonna, I mean, guarantee you're gonna hit the target. You're gonna hit that solo at 100 degrees. But I will say Brad is number 2 on my list. Now, many of you are wondering, well, you talk about Brad an awful lot. Why is he not number 1? Because you talk about him a lot as being a really good guitar player. You're right, I do. But the thing is, Brad is known for his really awesome guitar playing through country music. And also, I will say, definitely rock music. Because another compliment I would give this man as well, if I were to get his autograph, is that he punctures what Joe Walsh wishes he can play. But my number 1 spot is somebody who also is inspired by country music. I will say, and he confirmed very well that he was not in the metal, but mentioned bands that I grew up with: AC/DC, big fan of Led Zeppelin, and of course, country music. And that man, I feel like nowadays, he's just a ghost to a lot of people in a good way. And people know by listening to this band for so long and how on top this band is, how I would recommend this band even over a band that's driven already and just is elevating their fame. This band, I feel like, is like a close second. Like they're inching their way, and for me, my system is that this band they weren't rising for fame. They were rising for the skill and for their talent. And I mean, this band went places. This band really captured the essence of when you're going to any of their concerts physically. This band often will have a rule, and they have stuck to this rule for years, is performance is not complete without, because this band asks the audience not to record or to stand up and record during their live performances, because it takes the audience away of being in the moment. And it makes sense not having your phone in front of your face or in front of the stage. But the guitar player that 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 is number 1, and I think this guy deserves every single um good good vibes that people often give the band. I feel like should be given to him, and as fairness. But I just can't get over this, how people recognize the band but don't recognize this guy. I mean, they recognize him through the band, through his guitar playing, but as an individual, as somebody who is a ghost, that is none other than Adam Jones from Tool. But Adam is by far one guitar player that I hear that is a great guitar player, but I often hear that what is it, that Tool is an awesome band. They are an awesome band. And that is not a compliment because I know this band doesn't allow compliments. I know it by listening, by listening very deeply in the time signatures with Dana Carey's drumming, the vocal range James Manyard has. But Adam is somebody that comes out of nowhere, out of somewhere other than what comes organically. Adam comes out of nowhere. He's the ghost in the wind. Adam, for me, is a ghost because he doesn't play music right away. But when he does, he delivers it with precision and immortality, but also invisibly balanced. But I have mad respect for Adam. I wish to meet him someday. But he's one of my favorite. I mean, he's the influence. Because typically the guitar players I mentioned on this list were guitar players that always are recognized with their guitar playing and their style. What I didn't talk about was appearance. Adam is somebody who waits for the right time to strike, to, to strum. Or if he, I mean, when he pushes the pedal on and play, you don't know when he does it. My own perspective over Adam is this man does not need a treasure map to get where he wants to go. I mean, honestly, he doesn't, I feel like he doesn't need a boat to cross water because this man's already crossing water with his bare feet. But ever since I've listened to Tool, there was something about that band that I really captured and that really had me set on a path. whether they were the influence or one of the main attractions that kind of were an inspiration of me leading my way from a song on my very first album leading into the second. It wasn't due to it wasn't due it wasn't so the influence my drum it wasn't my drumming. It was when I'm grooving on the drums, when I'm in rhythm with the drums, I feel like Adam playing guitar. But I also feel like too that Adam is the third eye that I had that day. But Adam wouldn't appreciate any other compliments. I praise the man and I really look up to him. If anybody if anybody teaches you any valid lessons are given by receiving less compliments, but those who give you compliments and that overpack you with compliments can be naive at times and they can be very clumsy. But they overpacked you with compliments